Well, because we knew they have a defense that could win the Super Bowl, right? No one argued that. The reason I was like, they got no chance in the playoffs. Like, they got to pick 266, Mr. Irrelevant. Like, that doesn't happen.
No.
And someone, I think, tweeted at me and you today, or might have just tweeted at me. He's like, there's a chance that every quarterback in the AFC in the playoffs is going to be a first rounder, right? Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, you go through it, and they're not going to be one quarterback in the NFC that's a first rounder.
Well, we talked about the NFC one the other day in the final. Oh, he said in the playoffs. We just said the final.
In the playoffs.
That's incredible.
The playoffs, guy.
Yeah.
Now, if the Giants make it, Daniel Jones would be, but if he didn't, Heineke, Purdy, Geno,
Dak.
obviously Dak, Cousins, Jalen,
Brady,
Tom, yeah, or PJ Washington, or whatever the fucking guy's name is from the Carolina Panthers. They're not dead yet.
Makes it. What if Detroit makes it?
Well, then he would be the outlier.
Pretty ironic. But I think with backup quarterbacks, my default is you have to play a lot of games well before we're like, okay, maybe you are something better than we initially thought. And there's still the body of work on Brock is small, but there's so many signs that he might actually just be a good player. And I think the flip side of, well, we want to see you do it over and over again is, who's to say in 3 weeks he's not a better player than he is today? I think sometimes when a backup, basically it's overexposure, right? A backup can get overexposed. Like you played so much that we all kind of figured you out. And who knows?
It's usually also limited physical skills. I would say they tend to have like not as strong of an arm. They tend to be just kind of average physical specimens relative to the starter.
And over a period of time that you regress to the mean when
you think about some of the better backups like Teddy Bridgewater. I think Foles is a good example. Over the time he's had to play more. His arm isn't great, even though he can throw it far. I just think they tend to be Brock Purdy physically, like have some limitations, right? They usually actually like former really good players that become backups tend to be guys that actually overachieved. Like, damn, this guy carved out a long career as a backup, right? Like Nick Mullins is going to be in the league. You're going to look at Gardner Minshew. These guys have 7, 8, 9-year careers. So for 7, 8 of those years, they're the backup quarterback somewhere. And you go, that guy got every ounce of talent out of him. Think about Gardner Minshew as the backup quarterback for Jalen, who went to Alabama, Oklahoma, beat out fucking Carson Wentz, and is taking this team to the playoffs back. Like, Jalen has physical characteristics, right?
Right.
Or, Colt McCoy, Kyler Murray. This guy's Bo Jackson fucking can run a 4.0 40. It can throw it 95 yards. Like, has all these skills. Even Geno, when you watch him, like you can see he's got physical skills. He's big. He's thick. He's got a big arm. You can see why that guy. You're going to look up. Geno Smith's going to play in the league for what? 14 years.
Likable, right? Good teammate, smart guy, all that stuff.
I found myself I kind of like. I'm not rooting against Geno Smith. I don't like Seattle. I appreciate what he stands for.
No, but he's not playing with a full deck there.
Purdy's also really, I would say, even smaller than most quarterbacks. He looks small.
He started the game 11 of 11, hit his first 11 passes. Okay,
a lot of dump downs, right?
Yeah, which means he finished 6 of 15 the rest of the game, counting the Ayuk drop. So could have been
hit him in the breadbasket.
7 of 15. Still, that's under 50%. But 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, this week threw a ball that definitely could have been picked, but maybe high velocity football. Not like Kaepernick, hard to intercept that ball, John. But I, the thing to me that really stands out. Well, why don't you start? You former NFL scout.
I just think the one thing he has going for him that the other thing that stands out, I would say, when non-starters play, especially early, like their first couple starts, that is reason why they usually just get, washed out. They look very jittery. It looks like everything is going 90 miles an hour. And hell, this happens to some starters, right? It happened to Zach Wilson. I think some people might say Trey had some of that. It just happens to young players, just young players in general, even good ones, right? That it just looks like hectic out there for him. He does feel very, very calm, like not freaking out. On the one touchdown to Kittle, he did like 3 different, he went right, over the middle, and then look left, And again, Seattle's not exactly throwing Cliff Averill, Cam Chancellor blitzing. I mean, their defense is not getting crazy pressure on them, but it's still the NFL and it's still a short week. And this would have been the game where it's just, a little overwhelmed, can't hear that well. I mean, even Trent Williams had a jumped off sides. Like it's loud. It would be understandable. I never really thought tonight, guy. One time it crossed my mind. He made a bad pass that Diggs easily could have picked, but never thought like he looks jittery and just like overwhelmed. And to me, that's one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, beside his accuracy, because he is pretty accurate, not just from within the pocket, but on the move. Why I think Kyle, like, this guy can just fucking handle my offense and is not free. It'd be human nature. Like, whether you watch fucking movies on the Navy SEALs or in the Mafia, and those are things that I love, or football, like when you get in tense situations for the first time, not the training, not what they tell you about when it actually happens, people freak out. I can be a nervous Nancy, I guess, sometimes. Like I just need to take a deep breath. And just watching this guy, how calm he is, it's pretty fucking remarkable when you factor in what he took over, a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and two, just he's the last pick in the draft. It'd be one thing. It's like, he's cocky motherfucker, second round pick, believes in himself.
But there are second round picks who don't believe in themselves, right?
Well, I know. That's why you got to throw the pick out. But do you agree? Like, eye test, just carrying himself, honestly feels and I'm not saying he's better than Jimmy, even though he's making some plays that Jimmy can't make because he's quicker. He feels sometimes a little less erratic.
Well, I agree. I mean, first of all, he just fundamentally throws less flutter footballs. He throws more spirals.
Throws a beautiful ball.
Whatever that's worth. I was listening to yesterday. Somebody sent me. They're like, "Oh, Brady on his podcast. Let's go with Jim Gray.
It's a three-way. Isn't Larry on it too?
Larry's on it sometimes. Jim Gray just breaks in with ads all the time. I listen to that podcast. I'm like, I think we could do more ads.
Jim Gray, Tom doesn't read ads?
No, but like yesterday they had Tracy Morgan, Adam Sandler, and Bill Burr on in like it was just at the same time, all three of them.
It's the Manning cast?
Plus Tom, plus Jim Gray. And Jim, in the 20 minutes, interrupted those guys twice to do ads, like one for Kleenex. I don't know what.
Do you watch or listen to it?
No, it's just I listen to it. It's a Sirius XM, but you can listen to the podcast.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was enjoyable. I was just curious what it was going to sound like. Tracy Morgan, Adam Sandler, Bill Burr. And they were talking, and Bill's like, Tom's like, the guy that I always wanted to beat was Peyton. I wanted to be just better than Peyton Manning. He goes, but like I watch Patrick Mahomes. I can't do what Patrick Mahomes does. Like, that's not the same. Like, I can't be better at what Patrick Mahomes does than Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't even try. I don't play the same sport as Patrick Mahomes. Now, me and Manning, we played the same game. So I could try and be better than Peyton at Peyton's game, but I can't be better than Josh Allen.
I heard Tom say one time, it was actually one of the most insightful thing I've ever heard a player say. He's like, the most unique part about football? This is like 2 years ago. So he's like the greatest player of all time. He's like, I couldn't start in a high school game at the majority of positions. Think about that. Like I couldn't, he's like, I couldn't play at De La Salle at defensive end, right? I would get blocked.
Right.
I couldn't play corner in high school. He's like, that's what makes this game. Like Brock Purdy is, I think fits into what Tom, but he couldn't do anything else, right? Maybe Purdy could function, maybe take a handoff or something.
Slot receiver for Kyle.
Yeah.
But
you know what I mean? So it's like,
I do. So then Bill Burr was like, yeah, it's like if I try to do Adam Sandler's show or Tracy Morgan's show, I can't do that show. Like I'll see a guy who I think is really good at what they do, but I may not necessarily be funny the way they're funny. I can't do that. Bill Burr's like, the worst thing you can do, go up on stage after somebody kills it, but they're a little different than you, and then you try to do what they did, and it's like, he's like, it's just not going to work. You got to stick to your fundamentals, which of course Tom loved that. You got to stick to your fundamentals. And I say all that to say, like, I thought about that tonight watching Brock. He is so confident in the stuff that he is capable of that he's just really comfortable. And some guys I think are really confident in it, like Baker or Johnny Manziel came into the league, and it was like Johnny was trying to run away from people. You remember that? And he just couldn't get away from anybody. But here's Brock.
I'll never forget on a Thursday night game, they were playing Carolina, and he tried to take off, and Luke Kuechly caught him like within 3 steps. It was like, what, bro? What are you doing?
So I thought about that like when Brock came in, like, okay, he's a gunslinger. Well, does it work in this league? Well, multiple times, Kyle obviously had the confidence. They ran him on the must-have third down play. In the end zone, he throws the ball to Ray Lowe, whatever they have to punt. But getting out of the end zone when he had to peel out and run to the near side showed very good athleticism. And I just thought his, like, I don't know, man, he just looks like I don't know if you'd call him a great athlete by NFL standards, but I think he's definitely a great athlete by human being standards. And he's clearly just really fluid. Like, he just feels like he knows.
He had a moment tonight where he juked out a pass rusher and kind of went to the side.
Yeah, I just think he just feels like he knows it. It wouldn't shock me if you said, Brock, roll right, 7 yards, off your back foot. How far can you throw the ball? And Brock was like, that's a 44-yard throw. I don't think he actually knows that, but I bet he feels that. Like, he knows exactly. He's really well calibrated, maybe is the way to put it. I think he's really well calibrated.
I did not I didn't chart the game. It feels like Kyle calls more pass plays for him, doesn't it?
Well, it definitely. I mean, how about
like in the flow of a tighter game, he's more likely to call pass plays on early downs. Again, I didn't chart the game, but I'm watching it in the back of my head as I'm not thinking too deeply about it, but I'm like, I think Kyle calls the game differently for Purdy than he has his other quarterbacks, Jimmy, and the couple games of Trey the last 5 years. That's what it feels like, guy. Besides like when he's down or whatever with Jimmy. But I'm just saying, in the game, 7-0, he is not calling this game the same as with Jimmy Garoppolo. I would bet
the end of the half. The end of the half. Was it the Dolphins game where he moved the ball at like 2 minutes? 2-minute drill. End of the half, they pushed the ball. It was a little eye opening.
Did they tell the story tonight? Well, they had to. That last week, Purdy's family got over emotional before the game, and Bosa's mom. Were you listening to that part?
I didn't hear the part about Bosa's mom. I did hear the part about tears before the game.
So tears before the game, I think it like sets in there to their parents, like, our son is starting the game, and in their mind probably against Tom Brady, and like his dad was overwhelmed. And I think Bosa's mom might have been in the tunnel, or maybe they were in the family section, and she kind of consoled them, like kind of gave them a hug, like it's gonna be okay. But kind of like,
she's like, I've been through this with 7 of my kids.
Think about that, like. All these baseball players are signing or whatever. To me, one of the coolest things always in baseball is whenever a guy gets called up and has his first hit.
Yeah.
Right. You have to agree, I'm sure. And that like 8 people, it's like his mom, his dad, his cousin, his brother, his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, but they're still friends, and like 3 other buddies. And they're all just going nuts. They have beers are flying. And then eventually, like, the mom's like in tears and the dad is overwhelmed. Can you imagine Brock Purdy? They weren't even traveling to games. Why would they? And he was the backup quarterback. I would have told them, hey, bro, I don't know if you've watched Jimmy's career. Play away. Play away. You fucking be there at Chicago. At any of these games, like, your kid could come in. And then once they finally go and it hits them, and Bosa's like, hey, listen, my sons have made a combined $700 million in this league. Your son's going to be okay. Okay. But just the emotion.
Your son isn't chasing my son.
Think about that. Like, this guy's family was so overwhelmed with emotion starting a football game. I think that kind of represents his story. Like, it's crazy. Like, the Jimmy re-signing story was one of the most unique stories of the year in the NFL. Like, that moment. I think this Purdy couple game stretch is how it looks. Obviously, the stats are good. He's throwing touchdowns. He's accurate. But, like, the eye test, it's hard to argue. Like, you're not going to argue with a football person and be like, this is bullshit.
Right. Well, it doesn't match the story. The eye test doesn't match the story.
Because the story shouldn't be good, you're saying?
Well, it just, if you said, well, the Niners, Mr. Relevant's their quarterback, you'd be like,
they're fucked.
You'd be like, this guy I've been watching? It's just, his family's crying, but he
doesn't play like his family's crying, yeah.
Steven on the stream says Purdy's family was crying because they were scared Kyle was going to run him up the middle. It's true. They had seen the last 2 quarterbacks have career-threatening injury. Well,
and Kyle told his family, don't worry, I'm about to throw it 35 times a game with your kid.
Don't worry. It's the McCaffreys that should be worried.
Don't worry, Purdy family. I'm going to let your kid throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. That's my vision for him. I love him.
McCaffrey's the one who's going to touch the ball 33 times. So
if you thought I like Mac Jones, oh fuck, wait till you see me with Brock Purdy.
we know Kyle will overdraft a quarterback, so he can't claim that he liked him in the 5th round.
It's honestly it feels right that Kyle might have stumbled onto a quarterback, the last pick in the draft. Short little white guy from Iowa State.
Right after he traded everything for a guy at the top of the draft.